Well, hello everyone. This is Christian again, the Fix and Flip guy, and on another episode for the Fix and Wednesday, Flipping Wednesday. I'm sorry. So for another episode of Flipping Wednesday, so where we're going to be talking about, I'm going to be answering a few questions that I have from friends and from Facebook and anybody that send me, messages through my Facebook page, the Fix and Flip guy. Usually I get a lot of those all the time, and just asking questions on things that they're trying to get started. They're trying to get going on fix and flipping, and I'm glad to help in any way I can. So just shoot me your questions in advance, and then I will talk about it on this live broadcast every Wednesday if I get your questions before that, and otherwise I will pick usually one of the most popular questions from all of them, and then just talk about that on Wednesdays. Okay, so we always, I'm doing right now half an hour to 40 minutes to an hour if I can on returning answering questions. So definitely if you are looking at this, just put your state and where you're from, and just let me know where and which stage are you right now in your fix and flipping career, if you've been flipping for a while, or if you've been just starting up or just looking to start doing this. Definitely I will try to help you as much as I can on just giving you some of recommendations as the best of my abilities. It's all based on my own experience. I'm not trying to teach anyone anything. I just mainly want to make sure that if it is something that I've been going through, I will definitely talk about it, and I will definitely tell you about my experience on that particular subject. Okay, so one of the things that one of the questions that I have, and one of the most popular questions that I have from my friends on Facebook was about short sales, and it actually came out perfect because this week I have an event in Chicago about short sales. So we have two events. Actually, one of them is today that we're going to have at attorney's office. One of the attorneys attorney's office that I work with for many years, which is Anthony Pensica's office, and in Chicago, and they're very well known for working on short sales. So they've done all the short sales that I worked on, and for many other agents, and agents, realtors, and many other investors that are in the industry. So we're going to be doing an event at their office today, just giving a little bit of information about how short sale works and how we utilize those short sales for flipping. You know what I mean? How we the advantages, the pros and cons of dealing with short sales, and why do we pick short sales versus some other properties like bank-owned or any other type of properties. It definitely we've been getting a lot of huge discounts from the banks on some of these deals. So and that's one of the biggest reasons why we keep going to short sales. I particularly done a lot of them. I bought a lot of those homes throughout the last years, and I love them. So I mean that's why we're going to talk about it a little bit, and then sorry about the moving. And then this weekend also we're going to have a short sale workshop here in Chicago, in the Chicago suburbs actually, that is going to be the whole Saturday I think Friday we're also doing a fix and flip tour on some of the houses from some of the places where some of the other students that we have that they're showcasing their homes and the work that they're doing. That's for Friday. And then Saturday we're gonna have a full day of short sales from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. all day long. And then we're gonna have a networking event, a lunch networking event that all the people, all the investors that are coming, there are going to be new investors and seasoned investors from all over town. They're going to be coming to that event, and obviously, you're going to get a chance to network with everyone that comes there. So, just make sure that you get in touch with me if you'd like to come to any of those events. Either today, our event is at 6:30 p.m. At the Panzica Law Office in Chicago. So just send me a message. I'll send you the exact address and everything. And then this weekend, if you'd like to come to any of our fix and flip tours, or if you'd like to come to the short sale workshop for a full day on Saturday, just send me a message on my Facebook page, the Fix and Flip Guy, facebook.com/forward the Fix and Flip Guy, and I'll send you back the information. All right. So we just to move forward, we're gonna go now. We're gonna start going over short sales. What is a short sale? I've talked to a lot of agents that and a lot of friends that didn't go through the last or they weren't on real estate or weren't doing any real estate, but on the last crash that we have back in 2008. So a lot of people are asking me these questions. They don't know anything about short sales because they weren't going through that era. Even though we're still dealing with it, we still have a lot of them. The banks still have a lot of them. The books, and there's still a lot of people that are going to be losing their homes. So definitely that is something that we're still gonna you still have time, and there's always time. There's always going to be people that are going to be losing their homes. It's just that the amount of property that we saw back in 2010, 2011, 2012, and throughout the last 5-6 years, obviously it was a huge amount. So there was a lot of opportunity for a lot of us that were buying that type of property. So for those that never dealt with a short sale, I'm just going to start a little bit with what a short sale is, and what difference it makes between a regular sale and a short sale. So usually, what is a short sale? A short sale is when let's say you bought your house at let's say $100,000, okay, and then you went through an economic either crash or there was a devaluation time on the market. Well, now your house is probably worth less than what you bought it, okay. But if right now you need to sell that property, if the property is not worth the same amount that you bought it for, or more, sometimes you need to be worth a little bit more sometimes to sell it, and I'm going to explain that why. Then let's say that the property now is worth, just for an example, 80 grand. You bought it for 100, but now it's worth 80. Now you have to go back to the bank and say, Mr. Bank, I need to sell my house. I can't pay it anymore. But my house is not worth, what I paid for before. So, you're going to have to get into a short sale, what is called short sale. Okay. Obviously you're selling your house for less than what it was that you pay for, okay, that what your loan have in there. Back in 2006, 2006, 2005. I'm sorry, press my volume. Back in 2005, 2006, 2007, there was the big real estate boom that that homes went up in value a lot. So obviously that created a bubble on the pricing of the homes, and that increased the value of the prices of the property significantly. So, and that's what happened when 2008 came and the market crashed. All the property values went down. Some places up to like 80%. So sorry, my phone is calling. I got a phone. So it depends which areas, but some properties, it was like at least 50%, 30%, 50, 60, 80%. I mean, some places were like crazy amount, like up to 90%. I've seen that went down in value in some of the areas. I'm sorry, I'm just going to try to put my phone somewhere here that it doesn't shake so much. Okay, let me see if I can, if it doesn't fall on me. Hold on. Sorry about that. Let me see if that works. No, it doesn't. So anyway, so the idea is that what we were talking about is the short sale, what a short sale is, and that's pretty much in a short version of when your house is not worth the amount that you pay for it. Then if you need to sell, obviously you're gonna have to sell at a different price. So obviously that is when you go back to the bank and say, well, I can't pay the full loan. I gotta pay. I can pay a certain portion of it, and that's going to be a short sale. Now, there is a lot of help out there for the people that are, losing their houses. And one of the things that we always use here I'm based in Illinois, in Chicago. So here in Illinois, we're used to using attorneys for all our transactions. That is not the same for some of the places in other states. There's a lot of other states that don't use as much the attorneys as here for the real estate transactions. But here we do, in Illinois we do, and we're very used to working with them and having a good relationship with our attorneys to help everyone that is in that type of situation. So usually they take care of most of the work for the sellers when they need to go through that type of negotiation with the bank. Now there's many times in the beginning that I did it myself. Back in 2010, 2009, it was the beginning of that era in 2008. And we didn't know in the beginning how the banks were going to set up the process to keep selling these properties. Obviously, they were not moving, and the prices were dropping every day. So it was very confusing in the beginning. But certainly, with the help of our attorneys that we worked for a long time before. We were able to pull through that time, and now we're at a time that is a lot easier, and it still takes a lot of work for them to get it done, but it's a lot easier to complete those short sales. So how long does a short sale take? A short sale can take, I've seen some of attorneys, they can take 2-3 weeks to get approved. Okay, and then up to 6 months or a year sometimes. So it depends on the bank. Banks right now, like I said, they're more used to the whole process, so they're more willing, and they're more used to dealing with these stuff. They have now the staff in place to work for these. In the beginning, it was very chaotic. and it used to take a year before just to be able to get the short sale approved. And by that time, sometimes by the time that they approved the short sale, sometimes the property value was even less. It was worth less than what it was in the beginning when we put the contract on. So because the prices were dropping really fast. Why a bank would agree to a short sale? Well, I mean, the banks were on the hook for the thing that, if they didn't agree to a short sale in the beginning, don't get me wrong, they were very reluctant to approve the short sales. They did not want to do it. They thought that these economic crisis was going to be fast, and that the price was going to improve pretty quick after the crash, and so they were very reluctant to work with the sellers and to work with people trying to get a short sale, trying to sell their homes. A lot of them, they lost their jobs, obviously, through the crash. So it was very difficult for them to make their payments. A lot of people got way over their heads on bigger homes or loans that they couldn't pay. So obviously it came like a snowball, and banks were not being flexible in the beginning. But for that right now is all that time has passed, and they're a lot more easier to work with, and the time frame has cut in half or maybe more. And some of the banks are working really fast and trying to get it done very quickly. So the other thing is, depending on the state where you are, and if they gotta go through court proceedings or not. Here in Illinois, they have to go through court. Sometimes if they just to repossess the house. So usually it takes a little longer for them to repossess the house, so that gives us a little bit more time to negotiate with the bank and negotiate the price, or do all the process, all the stuff that needs to be done to get that short sale approved. So that's why the banks they got to do it. Otherwise, they got to repossess the house. They got to still spend more money on attorneys and stuff like that just to get you out of the house, and then put it back on the market. Maintain that property. In the beginning, it was very difficult for them to maintain the amount of properties that they had on their books. Now they, being able to get a good handle of it. They have companies that maintain the properties for them all the time. So they kind of got a good handle of it. So it's a lot easier now. So what are the who's responsible? Sometimes a lot of people ask me too about who's responsible for the balance, right? So let's say if you bought that house, you have a mortgage for $100,000, and you're selling that house for $80,000. Just to give you an example, usually the amounts are very large and different, but usually they're a lot more than 20,000. The usually attorneys here, they're very good at it on trying to have the bank agree not for the seller not to come up with the difference after that, and to agree. They usually agree that they're not going to come after you for the difference of that amount. Now, obviously, that is something that not every bank will do it, and sometimes not every. It's always case by case. There's some cases that are more extreme than others. So definitely the attorneys here help a lot more on that type of situation, and they usually are pretty good here at getting that from the bank in writing, getting a letter or getting a commitment from the bank saying, well, look, if you help sell this property, if you put it on the market, and you do everything possible to help the bank sell this property for not a huge amount of loss, then they'll get you a good letter in writing saying that you're not going to be on the hook for the difference of the amount that you're cutting short on your loan. Okay, that you're short on your loan. Plus, banks are usually paying for the closing costs sometimes that need to be paid at the time of closing. So usually sellers will cut out of it without having to pay for anything. So, in some cases we've seen throughout the years, and attorneys, I heard from attorneys, and it happens to some of the properties that I bought, that the sellers actually walk out with a check on their hands at the end of the day. These happens on certain areas, not in every area, but banks are willing to give you money for you to walk out of the property as long as you let them take possession right away. They don't want that property to be damaged. They don't want them to these take forever. So obviously sometimes they do offer some incentives to the sellers so they can just give out the property in a good standing without damage and or anything like that. So there is other alternatives to short sale too. We're not going to go over that, but there's loan modifications. There's other ways that you can give your cash for keys, and you can give your property away back to the bank, or try to do some other things for you not to lose the property. But that's a whole another subject that we're not gonna touch into it right now. This is just I'm trying to answer a few questions that I have from some of the friends that they write me at through my Facebook page, and try to answer those questions as best as I can. Again, I've done these short sales for a long time now. So some of the let me tell you a little bit about the process that you got to go through that stuff. So usually banks, when you find a seller, you find someone, you find a friend or a neighbor that is in foreclosure, and they want to sell their properties because they can't maintain it anymore, then that's, first of all, is an opportunity for you for maybe it might be a good flip, and then it's an opportunity for the seller to walk away from that mortgage without having to pay for the rest of it. Okay, so everything has to be done correctly. So obviously, make sure that you learn exactly the process before you go through these. Or if you're in the states that you use attorneys, make sure that you get hooked up with an attorney that they know about these. Here in Illinois, I use the Anthony Pasica's office, and they're awesome at dealing with short sales. They're very knowledgeable. They deal with these short sales right from the beginning of the short sale era, that I call it like that. But they deal with that stuff right from the beginning. So they're very knowledgeable about that. So, but anyway, so I'm going to go through quickly through the process that you got to go through it. If you find someone that is in that position, then usually I get him in touch with some of the resources and some of the people that I work with, like an agent. They need to get an agent, a real estate agent, that is going to put the property on the market. Now, if you're an investor and you're looking to buy that property, you can say, look, I have an agent friend that can help you putting that property on the market. Once the property is on the market, they usually want, the bank wants the property to be marketed for a little bit of time before they get an offer. But nowadays offers are flying in right away, so you as an investor, you can put an offer on it right away. Now after that offer has to go, it has to be turning into the attorney. In the meantime, probably in the beginning, the attorney can probably start working with them on paperwork. just to get the process going until they get an offer for that property. Or if you are the investor that are buying that property, definitely you can put an offer right away and get it to your attorney. So usually the way I do it, if I'm just gonna walk you through one of the last ones that I did. It was a friend of mine that was losing the property. I told him that I was buying properties so that I can help him get a real estate agent that will put the property on the market. I help him get an attorney that will help him get the paperwork to the bank and start the process of the negotiation. And I told him that I will try to buy it if we're able to negotiate the price with a bank for the money that we think that we can buy it, that is a good price for us to be able to flip it, then I'm going to buy it. Otherwise, I told him if that doesn't happen, if the bank doesn't agree to the price that we can offer, then the agent will be able to find you another buyer for it right away. And all of it without having to put any paying anyone up front. I mean, many of the attorneys that I work with and the realtors that I work with, nobody is charging anything to them. So that's even better because everybody's just trying to help. On top of the fact that it's actually in Illinois, I think it's illegal to charge anyone that is in that position. So that's why we always use attorneys and realtors to get the process completed. There's a lot of people out there that are going to teach you how to do it yourself, and I think it's great to know how to do it yourself and to do the short sale process yourself. But me personally, I prefer the attorneys to take care of it or the realtor to take care of it, because obviously we're busy trying to get more deals done. I think is a great deal of work that needs to be done. A lot of paperwork that the seller has to submit to the bank. But at the same time, I think that it's very important that you know how the process is and what it takes to get that done, so you understand the timeline. Sometimes a lot of people don't understand that why some banks, why do they take so long, or why did they ask for the things that they ask, or what is it that they're doing, or sometimes why are they coming out with a different price from your offer, or they're being hard to deal with, or stuff like that. But there's a lot of people working behind the scenes for that particular deal, and sometimes you got to understand the process to be able to understand why are they asking for what they're asking and where they're coming from when they're asked for different type of paperwork. They usually from the seller, they use, if you ever bought your house a house before with a mortgage for yourself, all the paperwork that you gotta all the paperwork that you had to present to the bank, right? So like taxes, W-2s, pay stubs, a lot of paperwork, right? So all that same paperwork is required again when they go through the short sale process. So that's one of the reasons why also I didn't like to deal with. I deal with a lot of clients back in the day, a lot, but I didn't want to deal with the fact that we had to handle their personal paperwork with some of these banks. Banks then after that got a little bit better about that situation, and they allow us for the sellers to send their paperwork directly to them, and it was a little bit more secure that way. But at the same time, we had to follow up with the sellers, make sure that they send the paperwork on time and all that stuff, because otherwise, the timeline will get screwed up, and the bank will take forever to resolve the short sale if the seller didn't send all the paperwork on time. So then after that, after you send the paperwork to them, the bank will send an evaluator. Sometimes some banks will now I've seen some of the banks, they even do an appraisal on the property, but most of the times they using brokers, realtors, that they give them a price opinion. It's called a BPO. It's a broker price opinion. What they do kind of like a CMA for them. They look for comps and they show, what has been sold in the area on the same type of property. It has to be the same type of property, the same kind of situation inside that, they got to go, obviously realtors had to go inside the property and they have to see what's the situation inside, if it needs a lot of repairs, so they gotta, somehow take that in consideration and compare to the other homes in the area and send an opinion of the price to the bank. All right. So and that the bank will take in consideration with your offer. Then after that, it starts the negotiation. The bank, the attorneys usually start the negotiation. And it's usually pretty straightforward. There's nothing. There is now some of the banks, they use a system where everything, all the communication go through there. Otherwise, by phone or email, it's pretty much what they do. They don't go back and forward in pricing too much. Some banks are more willing to work with you more than others. So definitely. It's something that sorry, I got sidetracked by one of my contractors is coming. So that's actually some of the things that the give me 1 second, hold on. Hey, what's up, man? I'm on a phone call right now, but I'll be with you in a minute. So so anyway, so the negotiation goes like that, and then usually the attorneys get that. They help, and obviously the broker is going to be involved on that too, and they're going to be helping the sellers understand the process, and obviously let them know what the banks are saying in regards of pricing, and what they're saying in regards of the offer that we put in there and everything else. So. That's pretty much it. And then after that, once the bank agrees to the price, they set up a closing date, and then the sale happens. All right. So the good thing is that some of these things, it works perfectly for newer investors. And why is that? In the beginning, I only dedicated myself on doing some of those deals, just because the time frame that it took. Obviously, for some of these deals, you needed to get the money in place to buy the property, to rehab the property, and sometimes the money wasn't in place immediately. So that obviously took us some time to do that. So we took the time that the short sale was taking. For us to be able to put the funds together for the renovation mainly. Usually we had banks in place or funding to buy the property, but sometimes it was a little difficult to see the inside of the homes. Some sellers were more helpful than others to be able to see these properties, but sometimes we couldn't get a full scope of work until later. So, but I think that if you compare that to bank-owned properties or auction properties, I prefer the short sales, obviously, because short sales, even though in the beginning they took a long time to do it, we had a lot of them in the pipeline, and we were able to do our homework on our houses and be able to do all the background check on the properties and all the scope of work on it with time, and we took our time to do it, and we were able to make sure that we analyzed the neighborhood as much as we could. And it was great. I think for us, we learned a lot because it gave us enough time to deal with everything that we needed to do for that particular problem. And when you're starting, obviously, it helps you with with your fear. I think in the beginning too, because obviously when you put in an offer on a property and you say, well, I got to close in 30 days or 20 days or 15 days, sometimes it's like, oh, okay, what do I do first and what do I do second? And sometimes it gets, a lot of people get freaked out by it. So definitely, it was great for us in the beginning because it gives you time to analyze the property over and over and over when you're new, and make sure that does a great deal for you, and it's a good, for me, it was a great way to learn about the whole process of short sale. And then in the beginning I did a lot of them by myself, and obviously with the help with the attorneys too, but I did a lot of the initial work by myself. So anyway, obviously that's why I think that short sales are a way better option for beginners than going to bank-owned properties or going to auctions. At the same time, because auctions sometimes very cash consuming. You gotta have your cash right there, but these short sales will give you some time to put your money in place when you're buying some of these properties. All right, so this is pretty much it for today, guys. I have some of my guys coming into the house to get some work done, so I gotta get to it. But send me any other questions that you have about this subject. And if you are by any chance in the Chicagoland area, send me a message for tonight's event. It's at 6:30 p.m. at Anthony Pansica's office in Irving Park Road. So if you like to come, you're free to come, and just send me a text message and I'll get you the full information on that. If you're not able today and you'd like to come to our event on Saturday, Saturday is a full day of short sales with one of our instructors, and we're going to be talking about everything about short sales. So it will be a great event, because also you're going to have an opportunity to meet other new investors and seasoned investors that have been working with short sales for a long time. So we'll be able to learn and network with a lot of people at the same time. So again, send me a message if you'd like to come to that event, and I'll be glad to send you all that information for that event as well. So without any further questions, I'm just gonna finish our broadcast today, and I'll see you next Wednesday. All right, thank you.